This is the Joe Wentz Project Podcast, where guitars still live and breathe, and the classics stay alive and well. While you're here, don't forget to check out the links below for info on where to get yourself a t-shirt and other apparel. Thanks for stopping by. And now, on with the show. Good day, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be listening to this right now. And what you're listening to is me. My name's Joe, and welcome to my podcast, Mobile Edition. Once again, yes. It is technically June 22nd at 3:35 a.m. It is 71 degrees. And I just left work. Yes, I work like a second shift, pretty much, is what it is. We have two shifts here at my job. I drive an 18-wheeler for a living. I deliver milk. And first shift is coming in now in between midnight and 3 and 4 in the morning. And I usually get off in between 3:30 and 4:30 a.m., just depending on how things go with my trip. And as long as all that goes smooth, I pretty much get off about this time of night or morning, which is really my night. So it's 3:35, and hope everybody's doing well today. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing pretty good. I like to talk about just a mixed bag of stuff sometimes. On these podcasts, it's pretty much just kind of, open forum. I kind of talk about whatever, whatever's on my mind or whatever, or if something I hear about, maybe from social media or something I like to touch on or whatever, something of that nature, and just share it with you fine people on this lovely thing that we call YouTube. Wow. YouTube. Man, I had no idea that YouTube would be as big as it is. It's like, I can remember when we first got of course I was in my first marriage, and it was in the late 90s, and we got internet, and it was dial-up, AOL, like what everybody had at that point in time. And then, of course, YouTube came, in like the, what was that, like 2006, 2007, I'm guessing, somewhere in that ballpark. And, wow, it's just really huge. Do you think something will come along sometime or another and overtake YouTube as another big entity for videos, for online videos and stuff? Do you think something else will come along and knock YouTube off its perch, so to speak? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea, but, usually there's always something better sooner or later that comes along and, knocks something else off the top, but I don't know. I have no clue. There are some people that make some good money on YouTube. I'm not one of those people. I'm just a regular person who likes to put up guitar-related videos and little rinky-dink things like this, these little podcasts, and sometimes some live hangouts and stuff like that, But it's fun. I enjoy it. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty good way of expression, just like music is a form of expression for me, and I love doing this right here. I think it's really cool, man. I think it's pretty awesome, So let's switch gears here for a second. I heard something the other day on social media, or saw it on social media, I should say, or whatever, about Gene Simmons wanting to trademark the I don't know exactly what you would call it on since we're doing just audio here, like the heavy metal sign with your hand, the first finger, the pinky, and the thumb, how that sticks out, and he's wanting to trademark that so he can have ownership of it. And I'm like, okay, let's just think here for a second. This is Gene Simmons, all right. The famous bass player of Kiss. Everybody knows who Kiss is, and everybody pretty much, unless you're, a young person who's, not into anything right now, they don't know who Gene Simmons is. But if you were born from, at least, like, let's say my era, 1970 up to, even the 2000 or, in 98 to 2000 or something, you pretty much know who Gene Simmons is. Famously known for supposedly sleeping with a lot of women. But that just shows you what money and power can do, and being in a famous rock band, but so I'm like, he's really wanting to trademark that, and I'm like, man, you got to be kidding. So that's, to me, that's that's showing right there you got more money than sense. Do I think that he'll get that? To me, I don't think so. I just don't see that happening. Could be wrong, but I just don't see that happening. I mean, come on, man. Is Gene just doing it for press? Well, like I said, if you're familiar with Gene Simmons, he's all about press. It don't matter if it's bad press or good press. If he's getting talked about, that's right up his alley. You know what I mean? Come on. He's all about attention, I have to give it to the guy, man, for being a businessman. I mean, he's really, he's admitted in interviews before he's in this game for the money. And he said, I'll be glad to take your money. And then, hey, he's honest. So, I think I saw, actually on YouTube, I actually saw a video where he was on Howard Stern. And he literally pulled out his wallet. And the cash he had in his wallet was like, I'm not kidding. It was like $400,000 or $500,000 in cash, and it was just. I was like, I can't believe this guy's carrying around that kind of cash. I mean, he's got bodyguards and all that stuff, but my God, to carry that kind of actual cash, my gosh! But this was this video. You could tell it wasn't nothing that was like recent. It was probably, 10, 15 years ago, but it was just amazing. Look at all that freaking money, That's like, wow. But yeah, so I don't see that him getting ownership of that. There's too many loopholes with that. I mean, that's just that stuff means something else besides heavy metal, there's just too many loopholes with that. I just don't see that happening. But just think, if he did get ownership of that, can you imagine how that would change a lot of things for that symbol with your hand? I mean, that's why I'm saying, man, I just don't see that. I don't see that working. I don't see it happening. Let's hope not. I mean, come on, man. Talk about having your cake and eat it too. Gene Simmons has definitely been that route. I will say this, all kidding aside, I have one of Gene Simmons' books. It's an audio book, and I believe it's called Kiss and Makeup. And I got it, like I said, from Audible, and he narrated his own book. And Gene Simmons is a well-educated man. He is very smart. And that book was really good. I kind of had a newfound respect, so to speak, for Gene Simmons after hearing his book. I was like, wow, he put in the hard work. He put in the time in Kiss. And so, I was like, yeah, I mean, he deserves everything he's got. I've never thought that he didn't deserve it, but it was just, it was just an interesting story. So if you've never read that book or heard the audio version of that, try it out. It's really good. It's really interesting. And, he talks about everything in that book. When he was a school teacher for a short while, and then he met Paul Stanley, and all the generic stuff you've heard for years. But then, of course, some inside stories as well. But it's good. Have I ever been a huge Kiss fan? Not really. They like I said, they've earned their place in rock music, of course. There's a couple of songs by them I thought were pretty cool that I liked. I got one of their cassette albums for Christmas one year from some relatives when I was in high school, and I remember it had that song "Forever" on it, and I thought that was a good song. That and "Lick It Up," believe it or not, those are the two songs I always liked that I really cared for by Kiss. I mean, there's some other songs that's pretty cool too, but those were the two that were my favorites. Which is wild because "Lick It Up," Ace Frehley's not even on that song. It's Vinnie Vincent. And so, but what's strange is me not being a huge Kiss fan. People kind of ponder the fact that I have a tattoo of Ace Frehley on my left upper arm up here. And, but the reason that is because I've always liked Ace's makeup, and I always thought Ace was a cool guitar player. I have his solo album when they all did the solo albums in Kiss, and of course Ace Frehley's album, his solo album in Kiss, was the only one that went gold. The other ones just hit rock bottom. They just didn't do nothing, But I always liked Ace's makeup. I always thought he looked cool, and I was like, man, and him playing that Les Paul in front of them Marshall stacks, I just thought it was cool. But I never was a real big diehard Kiss fan. I think the thing about it is I was really infatuated with their history, and how they became so popular in the mid to late 70s when they were at the top of their game, when they were, the height of their popularity. And I was just like, my goodness. And I really, to tell you the truth, I really didn't start getting into Kiss seriously or really paying them more attention until the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, yeah, of course, they've always been around and all that stuff, but I've just never, I was kind of like, no big deal. So, but I kind of started, looking into them a little bit more the past 4 or 5 years. And of course, I got the Ace Frehley tattoo and all that. So yeah, I mean, what's cool, I have to admit, what's really cool, and I don't know if it was just they planned it this way or it's just potluck or whatever, but when they decided to do the makeup, all those years ago, and they went for so long, and they decided to go without the makeup for, something different. That lasted for a little while, and then they decided to go back with the makeup again, and they decided to do this reunion tour with Ace and Peter Criss, after that big Unplugged thing on MTV years and years and years and years ago. Became a huge success. Well, they went back into the makeup. Well, all of a sudden, they looked like, because you couldn't tell they had aged any because they had that makeup on, and it was like, man, they still looked like they did back in 77 or 75, it was just, so that was really a brilliant idea, because the makeup, since it's, just the white with the black and everything, you can't tell, you can't, it's just like, wow, so, you got to give them props for that. That was cool, so yeah, they go on the reunion tour and all that stuff a couple of times, farewell tour, whatever you want to call it, and then of course old habits come up again. Peter Criss got aggravated with some stuff, whatever. What I think really what it is they, Peter Criss and Ace started making that good money again, and they kind of got back in maybe to, dabbling in some drugs and stuff, and they, after a while, when they started having a good bank account again, or a good padded bank account, I should say, they decided to get cocky, said, screw it, I don't need this, and Peter Criss, of course, was the first one to split, just like he did back in the late 70s. He was the first one to split in the band then, and then Ace stuck around for a little while, and then he ended up leaving. And to me, I know I said I wasn't a huge Kiss fan, but like I said, I've kind of got into them the past 4 or 5 years, just a little bit more, like I said. But to me, it just wasn't quite the same when Ace and Peter were gone. Just my opinion, but hey man, that Gene and Paul, they own the name Kiss. So Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, they're just hired guns, man. When they perform live or whatever, they get a paycheck for their performance. I don't know whether they get paid every performance or get paid once a month. Hell, I don't know, but that's how it is, and so wow, that's but nothing against those guys, Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, nothing against those guys at all. I mean, they're excellent musicians. Tommy Thayer is a phenomenal guitar player. Eric Singer, fabulous drummer and fabulous singer. I've heard an interview with him one time on what was it, on YouTube or somewhere on social media. It was an audio interview, and it was really good, man. He seemed like a really grounded person. I was like, wow, man, that's awesome. So those guys know what's up. They know that when they're there to just as a hired hand, so to speak, while they're on tour. When they're not on tour or whatever, they don't get paid, but believe me, the paychecks they're getting while they're they ain't got nothing to worry about. Of course, it's not as big as Gene and Paul, but those guys ain't got nothing to worry about. They're good. But so, also that kind of leads me to think, how much longer are Gene and Paul going to keep doing this? They're getting up there, man, in age. So eventually they're going to have to just say, hey, we're retiring, and we're going to let these. Are they going to nominate 2 people that look like them and move like them and sing like them and hook them up with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer and just be a full-blown tribute band or what? So I don't know. It's something to think about. Just in my opinion, it's crossed my mind. But whatever they decide to do, it'd be interesting either way to find out what they do or see what the outcome will be. So anyway, so that's my little podcast for tonight. Gene Simmons, is he going to be able to trademark the heavy metal devil horns sign or whatever you call it? Only time will tell. Either way, it's going to be a long time before any kind of resolution is made on that, because as you know, when you file anything through the court system or whatever, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. I would think it would take a while before we find out any kind of answer. But wow. Who knows what's going to happen next, man? Just the world of entertainment has seemed to just turned over, just flipped upside down. It just, I mean, if you go back and look at things like on YouTube and stuff, of like old celebrity roast or something like that, just for an example, I mean, everybody was more professional. People seem like they had more sense. Nowadays, everything is just crazy, man. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't. it's just a different world, man. Which, of course, it's a different day, a different time, a different era, and in some cases, it's a lot more dangerous too. Crazy. But we won't get into none of that. That's another subject for another time. So, okay, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, a great night, a great afternoon, whatever time you're hearing this. And I'm going to ease on to the house. I believe my wife said she made some chicken salad, so I can have me a couple of chicken salad sandwiches on toast. I like to toast my bread with a chicken salad sandwich. And maybe have a couple of those, something light, nothing real heavy. And then I'm going to bed. Watch a couple episodes of The Ranch on Netflix, which I love that show. I don't know if anybody listening to this is a fan of The Ranch on Netflix, but it just came back on with I guess this is what you would call like season 3 or part 3. I think they're calling it part 1, part 2, part 3. I think that's how they're labeling these things. But yeah, it's an awesome show, man. It's really, really good. Ashton Kutcher and Sam Elliott, Deborah Winger, a couple other people from that 70s show is on there. The one thing that, real quick before I get off here, just I guess my final thought for the day or whatever, and I know things, you get older and you can't stop Father Time, but I was kind of shocked to see when I was like, Deborah Winger's on there? I was like, that's awesome, man, because when I hear the name Deborah Winger, the first thing I think about is Urban Cowboy, Sissy. And Urban Cowboy. I mean, come on now. If you're in my age bracket, I just turned 47 in May, so I'm getting close to the big 50. Book them down. I'm getting close to it. But when I hear the name Deborah Winger, I don't think about and also an Officer and a Gentleman. She was in that too, and she was great in that movie. But for some reason, I always think of Urban Cowboy, which my wife doesn't care for that movie. I love that movie. I think it's a great movie. Yeah, there's some of it that's kind of corny, but you got to remember when it was made. That was, back in the early 80s, man. That's when Travolta he still looked cool, man. He was slim. He wasn't fat. And he was still busting a move in them cowboy boots and all that stuff. But Deborah Winger, man, when she was in that movie, when that was in that time period, she was just drop dead gorgeous, man. I was like, golly, man. But anyway, she's in The Ranch, and when it showed her on there, I'm be totally honest with you, and I don't mean this to be rude in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But when I first saw her, I was like, who is that? I didn't know it was her, and then she talked. When she spoke, one of her lines, you couldn't mistake her voice. It's like, oh, that's Deborah Winger? I was like, man, what happened to her, man? But it's just, it's just time, I was so used to that, having the way she looked then embedded in my memory, and then when you see her currently, it's like, wow. I mean, Sam Elliott still looks the same. I guess some people just age gracefully, and maybe she had a bout with drinking or something in her younger days. Maybe that, I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I'm just, how it is. How some people can, if they drink a lot and they party too much and they just don't know when to stop, and then eventually it catches up with them and they kind of look rough, I was like, is that what happened to her? Or is it just, did she party hard or something? Or is that just the way it is? Who knows? Anyway, it's still an awesome show. I love that show, The Ranch, on Netflix. It's awesome. If you haven't seen that, check it out, man. If you're a fan of Ashton Kutcher and that 70s show, kind of in that element, so to me it's kind of like that 70s that 70s show, but kind of like a country version, kind of sort of. But anyway, I thought it was awesome. I love it. It's an awesome show. So okay, anyway, now I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I've held you up long enough. I don't like to make these things too long because I don't want to bore people to death. And okay, thank you again very much. I'm out of here. This is Joe for the Joe Wentz Project Podcast, Mobile Edition. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Peace out.